Years of age. I'm currently based in Mannheim. No. My name is Rzougas Interview. I'm 25 years old. I'm originally from Tunisia and I live now and based in Germany since almost 3 years ago. By the time this will be out, it will be already 3 years. I came here and sought asylum and applied for a refugee status that I obtained afterwards. And now I'm working as the group coordinator, the Unicorn Refugees Group Coordinator, which is like a subgroup for the Plus Rhein-Neckar-Kreis e.V., meaning die Psychologische Lesbische und Schwulverein Rhein-Neckar-Kreis e.V. I'm practically an activist, a human rights defender in general. I started my social engagement, let's say, my activism for saying at the age of 19 years old, I would say, within a structured, legally registered organization, which was back then the first organization, human rights organization that works on queer rights, LGBTIQ plus rights. But it was back then registered and obtained a visa to legally work as a minority group, where it's stated that it will be also work on sexual minorities, which includes the lesbians, the gays, the bisexual, pansexual, and all of the other sexual orientations and sexual minorities. So I volunteered for 3 years as a volunteer regular member, and then I got elected as the executive office member. And during the 4 or 5 years of my engagement within the association, I've gained a lot of experience concerning communication, conflict resolution, human rights, and mainly lobbying and advocating, which was my main direction, main engagement within this organization. We wrote a lot of reports in regards of the human rights violation when it comes to the queer community and the LGBTIQ plus community, to the United Nations, to within several United Nations mechanisms, and so we highlight the universal violation of human rights that the country is obliged to obey within several agreements and treaties, body treaties, and so on. I decided to come to Germany to have more freedom of expression in regards of my gender identity, mainly, as I identify as a genderqueer person. I go by all the pronouns practically, but preferably when it's English and it's writing, I would extremely request to be referred as they and them, especially when it's English and written. However, when it's like a spoken language and different language, where it's a bit problematic to have a gender neutral pronouns, I'm very easygoing, as I don't believe in the concept of gender to start with. I discovered my sexual orientation way early in my life. It was practically something around, let's say, 12, 11 years old. And it all started there. At the age of 13 years old, I discovered that it's criminalized to be homosexual and to be attracted to the same sex, a person from the same sex. It was a bit frustrating because I understood and I was extremely proud about this attraction that I'm having, and I found nothing weird with it, especially that it goes around love and affection. So, and I believe love can never hurt anyone, and affection can never hurt anyone or affect like the social value of the country or so on and so on. Later on, as I got more in a deep relationship with myself, I broke it down to pieces, how I identify, I want to express myself, what kind of sexual and gender identity expression that I want to express outly and verbally and out and proud and loud. I understood that it's going to be very, very problematic, and it was, and it started to be very problematic. So around the age of 21, when I decided I'm going to engage more in my drag career, because I'm also a drag queen, aka Shayma del Queer. And I decided it's going to be very problematic, and I understood that I contributed enough from that space, and if I'm going to be a bit tired or exhausted or in conflict with my own identity, I wouldn't contribute as much as from here practically, which is I'm still doing. I'm still involved with a lot of advocating, a lot of awareness, a lot of mobilization in favor of the queer community in Tunisia, North Africa, and the Middle East overall, as it's very it's a huge topic right now, the queer tema within our region, and it's, let's say, there is hope, but it still needs to have a lot of work. Coming here to Germany, of course, I decided it will not stop there, and I will also always and forever have my contribution to the movement, the LGBTIQ plus movement in my country, in the region that I grew up in. However, coming here as a refugee and as asylum seeker, getting to know the community, getting to know the field, getting to live the violations and the minuses that needs to be worked on, better worked on, I decided to engage with N+, as a first step as a beneficiary, as a regular asylum seeker who went to Plus to have preparation for their BAMF interview. BAMF, I think, would be the Bundesamt für Migration und Flüchtlinge. So I went there to prepare my interview, to know my rights. I was very much privileged that I have the 5 years background of international activism. I've been a few countries here and there to attend international events and international advocacy weeks and so on. So I had a few networks here in Germany that put me in touch with Plus, as Heidelberg was my final destination and my case would be processed here. And it all started there with the unicorn refugees. As I started with the unicorn refugees and being more involved with the queer refugee community, I understood and I was faced with the harsh reality of not only being in a queer minority, in a sexual orientation minority, as I used to be in my country. Coming back here, I found myself being discriminated against, institutionally discriminated against in a lot of cases, based on my race, based on my skin color, based on my expression, because it's also here still a bit discriminated against and still looked at. Yes, you have the laws that protect you from being discriminated against based on anything, but when you go down and to daily life practices, it's still not very much implemented, and the awareness, it still needs to be more worked on. I can also usually find myself still within the queer community itself here in a certain category of whether being the fetishized drag queen or the fetishized bearded brown refugee person. I found myself a lot of time in a relationship and in a situation with a person who was having a white savior, a hero syndrome, which is unacceptable, of course, because here it's not a victim situation, it's a survival situation, and it's a built-up experience that we live on our own, and practically all the counseling and all the assess that we get, it's to get us through the legal procedures and everything that we don't know. I usually find myself very much discriminated against based on my expression. Thinking coming to a queer community in an open-minded country where people are allowed to be married and everything like that, so people will have a single or like a very slight knowledge about the subgroups within the LGBTIQ community itself. A lot of us don't speak the language, where they find themselves discriminated against based on the language. A lot of them find themselves discriminated against based on their social status. Some of us was coming from a certain social level, which of course I don't need to mention that it doesn't make anyone better than anyone, but we find ourselves faced with the reality of finding really hard problems to find jobs that fit us and that doesn't get us involved in a systematic computer machinery society where we don't have any voice, which is usually the case and usually the goal, where we don't have any voice, where we cannot express our political opinion and to be just fillers within the jobs that the Germans are not willing to work within. A huge theme also is the sexual harassment. A lot of us faced rape, faced sexual assault, which makes them within a group of a queer Muslim person of color, rape survivor who doesn't speak the language enough, who is not being very much included within the queer community as an umbrella, which is our chosen family, whether like the close ones or the very much further ones. I don't know, for me, coming from a place where the community played big role in building up my personality, I took it for granted that I come here and it will feel like a home for me. Of course, there are the exceptions of very much close friends, but as an outspoken queer person, speaking for the right of the freedom of expression, which gender expression and the freedom to express your gender comes within, of course, I stopped being about me, it stopped being about my group. It started rather defending and working for the cause of the white German gay person. Sorry, you're not being attacked right now, but that's the idea and that's the reality, the harsh reality. The 34 white governmental job, fixed salary with a boyfriend and everything like that. I started to fight for your rights and start to raise awareness for you to hold your boyfriend's hand or your partner's hand out in the street with no problems, and encouraging German people to use their rights against homophobic people and against hate crime, and documented and put in value everything that our senior queer people fought for years, and we are here taking it for granted, losing our identity within a wider circle of Netflix and Grindr. And of course, because it's still like a developed country, but patriarchal country, we don't have anything for the lesbians as a hookup platform. Still like a big issue of sexism within our community. A lot of prejudice concerning people needs to understand that they have a voice. They need to use it. And a voice, not speaking like physically, I'm speaking rights, I'm speaking political, I'm speaking movement. Don't make your existence, please, around listening to ABBA and praising Cher. It's way beyond there. We are a whole. The intersectionality here is way obvious and it's way clear. Defending the Muslim person of color who is a gender nonconformist, expressing it loud and proud and clear, includes you, the person who doesn't have any relation with those groups, to have stronger rights. Because at the end of the day, my fight is your fight, and my demands are yours. So my fight includes yours, that's why yours should include mine. So I would kindly ask our queer community that is benefiting from the rights of expression and freedom and fighting against discrimination to use that right that a lot of people have fought for, and you are having it as a given and taking it for granted. Also use your voice. Fight for people who could not have like a stronger and as loud as your voice. You hold your boyfriend's hand, hold your partner's hand in the tram. Show yourself as an individual and as a community, because it's helping a lot of people, and it's helping and waving the way to equality and to many different groups that cannot do what you are able to do and you're not paying close and enough attention to. And you can always, of course, help newcomers by volunteering for organizations, helping people who do not speak the language, for taking out, printing out papers, going to administration. It would probably take 30 to 1 hour per month from your precious time. I know you are very much, we are very much grateful for that. It's very much easy. Google queer working organization in whatever city that you are. Probably Plus is one of the biggest now in the region, that it's working in several small cities within the Rhein-Neckar-Kreis region. So just like be queer, be out and loud and about in your own way, use your voice and give a little bit of your time. Give a hand of help. It's nothing harmful, it's helping way much more than you think. I would also probably direct this message to newcomers, young people especially, who are just arriving. I'll tell them you are going to have a way difficult road than you expected, but it does have an end to it. It's not going to be the case forever. You will be well included rather than integrated within this society. Whether this society as a majority accepted you or not, you will always have the people who are your sub-community, and you have your people within the queer community overall, nationals, internationals, and overall. There's always a family for you. Know your rights, reach out to social workers. Don't hide your identity, don't be scared, because the more you hide, the more ambiguous and more vague your rights get. So be specific about your identity, be specific about the reason that you came to this country and what led you to leave your country, so you know better your rights. Reach out to peer groups. Unicorn Refugee is a brilliant group. It provides a space for you to be within people like you who experience the same road, who experience the same problems and so on. So it's just like to have a space for you with people like you, organized by people like you, most probably. You have a lot of activities as well where you can interact and have a broader relationship with members of the society that we are living in. Cooking Love, for instance, is a brilliant event where internationals and everyone who's not from the region to get to know each other and to have the opportunity to socialize and to network, to have this human interaction rather than being treated as a file within an administration that's called BAMF. It's very good for us not to be isolated, so please always reach out, have no shame in being in problem, have no shame in being in vulnerable situation. Don't be silent about any violation. Know that you are worth benefiting the rights of everyone else on this land, because after all it's a land and we are all living together on it. and we should all benefit from the same rights, and we should all stick up together and call it a day and live an equality road that will lead us to, I don't know, 2 gay prides per year, not only one, or not having a gay pride at all and being every day proud and all and about. Go to your gay locations, go to your gay venues because we are losing those. So support your queer projects, support your queer neighborhood, florist, cake shop, or whatever it is, because visibility is super important. And unfortunately, coming back to intersectionality, as we are in a capitalistic society and environment, we require to be more involved in the economy and raising up each other and praising each other, because the queer community is a brilliant community that is very brightful and colorful and special and unique as a whole, with the persons of color, with the religious minority, with the different languages that we do. But as an individual, unfortunately, we still face a lot of hate, we still face a lot of homophobia, transphobia, queerphobia, Islamophobia, racism, sexism, which is still a thing. So we need to get this fight as a community, till one day it's not a fight anymore and it's all about awareness.